From Star Television Network in Freetown, hello and welcome to the National News Bulletin. I am Leonora Jawara, and first we have a look at the top stories. President Dr. Julius Maada Bio receives annual report from the Ombudsman Leon Jenkins Johnston Esquire and assured of his government support to the institution's independence and operations.
I'm optimistic that the Office of the Ombudsman can explore additional such sources of more partner funding that can help you in terms of capacity building.
The Sierra Leone police has confiscated a huge consignment of copper cable at 118 Kisi Road in the eastern part of Freetown, which, according to the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Elizabeth Toure, the materials could be used to wreak immense havoc if it falls in the wrong hands.
The investigation is ongoing, and we hope that you will give us all the support in terms of whatever information you get, so that at least we can progress with the investigation to prove it beyond all reasonable doubt.
And the Minister of Information and Communication, Mohamed Rahman Soare, during the launch of the A to Z Multimedia Corporation, a state-of-the-art media company, said the A to Z Multimedia will help to enhance the media landscape in the country.
During the campaign for the repeal of the obnoxious provisions of the criminal libel law, that once done, we will make the media better forever.
All this making the headlines. Let's get you details of the news now. His Excellency, Dr. President Julius Maada Bio has on Thursday, February 4th, received the 2019-2020 annual report from the Ombudsman Leon Jenkins Johnston Esquire and assured of his support to the institution's independence and operations. Judge Elliot Sam takes up the story.
His Excellency, the President, retired Brigadier Dr. Julius Maada Bio, has on Thursday, the 4th of February 2021, received the 2019 and 2020 annual report from Ombudsman Leon Jenkins Johnston and assured his support to the institution's independence and operations. The Ombudsman Leon Jenkins Johnston said, according to the report, from the 1st of July 2019 to the 30th of June 2020, 484 complaints were logged with the Office of the Ombudsman against various ministries, departments, and agencies, with 246 logged at the head office in Freetown, 121 in Bow, 71 in Kenema, 16 in McKinney, and 30 in Port Loko. 329 have been concluded so far, he stated.
Your Excellency, pursuant to Section 15 of the Ombudsman Act No. 2 of 1997, I am obligated to present an annual report to Your Excellency on the activities of my office. It is against this backdrop I am presenting to Your Excellency today a report covering the period 1st July 2019 to 30th June 2020. From 1st July 2019 to 30th June 2020, 484 complaints were lodged with the Ombudsman against various MDAs, of which 246 were lodged at the head office in Freetown, 121 at the regional office in Bow, 72 at the regional office in Kenema, 16 at the regional office in McKinney, and 30 at the regional office in Port Loko. Out of 484 complaints, 329 have been concluded so far. From the majority of the complaints lodged during the period under review, about 164 were against private commercial entities and they bordered on labor and industrial disputes. Most of those that complained against private commercial entities reported that they were not satisfied with the actions taken by the Ministry of Labor to address their complaints. The office referred the complaints against these private commercial entities to the Ministry of Labor and made several follow-ups with the ministry to ensure that the referral matters were satisfactorily dealt with. It is largely the intervention of the Ombudsman that led to the conclusion of most of the industrial disputes with the Ministry of Labour. Over 44% of the 484 complaints the office received in 2019 were for non-payment of emoluments and were largely reported against commercial entities and NASITs and the Ministry of Education. Unfair treatment accounted for about 29% of the complaints received and were predominantly against the Sierra Leone police. About 15% of the complaints were for wrongful dismissal and were mostly against the Sierra Leone police. Several measures were taken by the office to resolve these complaints during the period under review, and majority of these complaints were resolved by negotiations between the parties concerned. The office also concluded a number of matters by formal investigation reports and my recommendations as Ombudsman for remedial action.
In a statement, President Dr. Julius Madabio said his government has supported the legal right to government information, repeal obnoxious laws that prescribe free speech, and made transparency an administrative norm. This and my government support for the work of the Ombudsman clearly serve the public interest, strengthen our public institutions, and further consolidate a more inclusive democracy, he said.
I'm optimistic that the Office of the Ombudsman can explore additional such sources of more partner funding that can help you in terms of capacity building. My enthusiastic support for the work of the Office of the Ombudsman is grounded in three key governance imperatives. First, it's a reflection on our history. A reflection on the fact that a major grievance of young persons and much marginalized citizens has been persistent anger about a culture of impunity, unfairness, and injustice, especially as there have been no or few redress mechanisms to right public wrongs. Second is the acknowledgement that there are still structural inequalities that constitute governance deficits. We should get those right. The third imperative emanates from a key question that informs Cluster 4.5, that's promoting inclusive and accountable justice institutions, and Cluster 4.6, building public trust in state institutions of our medium-term national development plan. That is, how can we get the public to trust the state more in our democracy? These clusters also align with Goal 16 of the United Nations Development Goal, United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, building strong institutions that support promoting just, peaceful, and inclusive societies. So I see in the Office of the Ombudsman, as a key institution for strengthening and reinvigorating our democracy.
The Office of the Ombudsman receives, investigates, mandates, and resolves complaints laid against administrative decisions and malpractice of public sectors, institutions of high learning, set entirely or partly out of public funds. For Star News in Freetown, I am George Elliott Sam, reporting.
During their regular updates to members of the press on major investigations, the Sierra Leone police has intimated that, acting upon intelligence, they were able to confiscate a huge consignment of copper cable at 118 Kisi Road in the eastern part of Freetown. Now, these materials, according to the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Elizabeth Toure, could be used to wreak immense havoc if it falls in the wrong hands. Febuary compiled this report.
When updating the press, the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Elizabeth Toure, said that the SLP acted on tip-off, which led them to stumble upon these large consignments of copper cables at 118 Kisi Road. She further revealed that they have several suspects in custody as a result of the thefts of 276 jerry cans of gasoline oil.
I'm here instead to actually give you a brief on two major operations that were launched by the Sierra Leone Police Force. One was on the 26th. Acting upon intelligence, we had a team of CID and IS officers that actually, executed a search warrant at number 118 Ekisi Road. And during the course of that search, we were able to discover a huge quantity of copper cables. So immediately, the matter was referred to CID headquarters, and the investigation is ongoing. We've been able to obtain statements from some people. I don't need to disclose names because I don't really want to prejudice the investigation. But as at now, the investigation is ongoing, and we hope that, you will give us all the support in terms of whatever information you get, so that at least we can progress with the investigation to prove it beyond all reasonable doubt. The second incident is also the theft of 267 gallons of jelly cans of gasoline. We are also intercepted by a combined team of CID and IS at number 11B, Gross Road. We have one suspect in custody, and so far he has denied knowledge of the properties. He claimed to own ownership of the property, but like I said, we actually want to know whether there are other leaks. So based on that, the CID is also investigating, and we have to prove it beyond all reasonable doubt that it has a link with any of the other institutions.
Francis Nagoba Kelly, Director at Office of National Security, stated that these materials are high-sensitive materials, noting that they are restricted materials that are of delicate nature. A call on the public to come forward with any information that is relevant to the investigation.
We rely on the further estate especially to disseminate the requisite information to the public. I also rely on the public. Police activities now, security activities are mostly intelligence-led. This is a precursor to a lot of criminality that has been taking place. I mean, some of these items are restricted items, so to speak, used by a class of persons or institutions. Yeah, they are not items that you can get from the open market. But as stated by the DIG, they are investigating the matter, so they cannot prejudice the matter now. I think the appeal being made is for the public to come forward with any information that will lead to further investigations. Perhaps there might be other people who might be incriminated, or there might be other items that communities might be aware of. So this is just an appeal, so that you continue to have faith and confidence in the security sector, especially the police in terms of service delivery. And the security sector always avail itself to make public any information that warrants public knowledge or public attention.
The spokesman of the SLP, Superintendent Brema Kamara, concluded by stating that they intend to cast a wide net during the investigation, as he said there might be other people involved in these dubious activities. For Star News in Freetown, Febuary reporting.
The A to Z Multimedia Corporation, a state-of-the-art media company, has officially been launched by the Minister of Information and Communication, Mohamed Gaman Swale, who intimated that the A to Z Multimedia will help to enhance the media landscape in the country. The launching ceremony took place on Thursday, February 4th at Robert Street in Freetown. Hassan Kurumar has the details and now reports.
The launch of the AZ Multimedia took place at their head office on Robert Street in Freetown. Making his welcome address, the Chief Executive Officer of the AZ Multimedia Corporation outlined that the launch of the media entity was perceived from a burning desire to invest in the media development in the country. He also added that he is pretty much convinced that all media houses in the country share the same spirit and desire so as to respond to the need of media professionalism that is responsive to the evolving trend. And that is why they are convinced that about the possibility of contributing to the development of a healthy media landscape in Sierra Leone.
In professional journalism, we don't see you guys as rivals but colleagues, that we be mutually supportive, even as we might be preaching the same sermon from different pulpits. Make no mistakes, we will from time to time come knocking on your doors to compare notes and share. That should be the spirit. Let me conclude by reassuring the wider public of fairness in deepening local content and promoting diversity as a necessary ingredient for strengthening democracy, national stability, and sustainable development.
The chief executive officer was fast to maintain that as a media entity, they will work within the ethical consideration of the profession. Making an input during the launching ceremony, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Solomon Sengepo Thomas, noted that investment in the media has not properly been explored in Sierra Leone, adding that it has even become worse with the advent of social media, maintaining that those who are to invest in the media are now saying that information or news is all over the place. He, however, thanked the CEO of AZ Multimedia Corporation and team for such an investment in the country, which he said will add more feather to the cap of the media landscape in Sierra Leone.
The Parliament of the Republic of Sierra Leone made history, of course together with other stakeholders like the Minister of Information, when we repealed the seditious libel laws from our books. That is to encourage media practitioners that they are free to express their views on national issues, matters relating to accountability and governance, matters relating to development generally, and so on.
The Minister of Information and Communications, Mohamed Ramansware, was a keynote speaker. Making his keynote address, he also congratulated the Chief Executive Officer of AZ Multimedia Corporation, maintaining that as a government they made a commitment in repealing Part 5 of the Public Order Act of 1965, which he said will enhance the professionalization of journalism and make investments in media more attractive, describing the launch as a clear manifestation of making the media better for all and sundry. As an aside, he encouraged practicing journalists to opt for media professionalism.
We did argue again during the campaign for the repeal of the obnoxious provisions of the criminal libel law that once done, we will make the media better forever. From what I see and from the growing testimony here from the commissioner responsible for print media under IMC, I am convinced that you will pay your employees a salary. They will have an opportunity to save for a rainy day through your provision of NACIT payments and all of those things. We are heartened by that. So this is a contribution towards His Excellency President Julius Maada Bio's job creation call. At this point, not only to congratulate you, but also to wish you well as you clamor for prominence, as you clamor for leadership in the media. So but let me note that this is infested waters. You are about plunging into shark-infested waters, shark-infested territory. But you are all spirit in the graveyard yourself. You clearly know how to meander this very scaly world. So on that note, I wish you well, all the best. Continue to maintain the morale of your team, and not even the sky will be your limit. It is now my distinct honor and privilege to officially launch the A to Z Media Corporation.
The media history of AZ Multimedia Corporation is inbounding in narratives that speak to their exponential role in African journalism. For Star News in Freetown, Hassan Koroma reporting.
Well, in case you've just joined us, this is the National News Bulletin here on Star TV. Now, as a way of commemorating the World Read Aloud Day, the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education, in collaboration with their partners, has commenced a 3-day community engagement with parents and pupils to bridge the educational and emotional gaps created in the educational sector. Alusain Abubakar Bangura has more.
The World Read Aloud Day is commemorated on the 3rd February every year to empower the skills of children in the area of reading aloud. This practice of reading aloud, according to research, encourages social and emotional learning, empathy and conversational skills. Speaking in the engagement, the Assistant Director of Primary Education in the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education, Melody Martin, emphasized on the importance of World Read Aloud Day and encouraged parents to serve as mentors to their kids and motivate them to inculcate the culture of reading aloud. Madam Martin also noted that the ministry is intending to extend the donation of books and awareness raising to the provincial areas.
Reading is very, very important. It's a trivial part of our human system. are talking to me now because you have been taught to talk, to read by extension. So when a child is born, you hear the baby saying ba, 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 they are developing speech. There is power in the spoken word. We want to agree there is a difference between the spoken word and the written word. So we are encouraging people to read because in our culture today, people have lost the culture of reading, which is by extension the reason why there is massive failure. Because when you read, you understand the question. If you don't understand the question, how are you going to answer it? Because most people don't read. And reading and understanding the question is one way in which you'll be able to answer. So we want to bring back this culture. That is why the world over we are celebrating World Read Aloud Day from the 5th to the 6th of February 2021. For this year, the world over, we have gone to schools, yes, but we have chosen communities, as you can see. We want to encourage parents to be reading to their children. We want to say, well, 80% of Sierra Leonean parents are illiterate. It doesn't matter. We want to develop this culture of dialogue, this culture of bonding between parents. We want our parents to sit back in the evening and talk to their children. Because if you develop this culture of talking to your child, you discuss a lot of things. Modern days, we don't believe in the word. We believe in discussion, we believe in dialogue. That is one way. If you get the parents to be seated with the child and to study, you get the child to talk. If that child gets used to you, he or she might come and say, mommy or daddy or mama or papa, this is what is disturbing me. But these days, you yourself will agree with me that you don't have that kind of a relationship much with elder people. You even fear to talk to them. Because all we do as parents or guardians is give commands. We don't listen. Because when you read, it helps you to listen. Because if the parent is listening, is reading, or the mother is reading, it helps the child or whoever is around to listen. So it develops your listening skills, it makes you understand, it makes you bond.
As a way to embrace the World Read Aloud Day, a clear passion of reading aloud was demonstrated by parents and pupils at Ogu Farm. The children energetically repeated the stories after their parents took the lead during the engagement. Jeremiah Thomas Gabriel, the country director of Sierra Leone Diamond Foundation, expressed delight and thanks the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education for their timely intervention to revive the long-lost valuable culture. Gabriel called on every parent to encourage their kids to imbibe the culture of reading.
I feel excited because this is a very big career as this is one of our vision hits, that is to say, World Read Aloud, and it's part of our mission as well to educate the kids. You know, if I help them pull them from school, pull them from poverty, educate them, because we know education is the key of the world. So that's when I was told that this is their mission and this is their purpose, and the team alone, World Read Aloud. So I was convinced and happy. I decided to gather them for them to come and listen exactly what the Ministry of International UNESCO and Yoga that's going to come and explain to them. So that's why today is a very, happiest day for me, because it's like my organization and the way I was explaining to them, for them to know exactly that we are not looking at people that are rich, people that are somehow average, looking for the poor, and for them to know exactly that we are there to help them, pull them from struggle, pull them from poverty, and which is the key is education. So that's why when this thing comes out, we educate them, we talk to them concerning that. So they are very happy, and our organization, myself, I'm very, very happy.
For Star News in Freetown, Alusain Abubakar Bangura reporting.
Finally, the United Methodist University Sierra Leone has on Thursday, February 4th, presented a certificate of accreditation as an autonomous university in the country at the theological headquarters, Leicester Peak in Freetown. Yogo Jalo has more.
Professor A.M. Algali, Chairman, Tertiary Education Commission TEC, in his keynote address, said it is a remarkable day in the history of private higher education institution in Sierra Leone, and the Tertiary Education Commission was established by an Act of Parliament in 2001 and charged with responsibilities, among others, to advise the government on tertiary education matters and ensure parity of esteem among institutions and the products in Sierra Leone.
Today is another remarkable day in the history of private higher education institutions in Sierra Leone. The Tertiary Education Commission was established by an Act of Parliament in 2001 and charged with responsibilities, among others, to advise the government on tertiary education matters, ensure parity of esteem among institutions and their products in Sierra Leone. In accordance with its mandate, the Commission received an application from the promoters of the proposed United Methodist University for accreditation as a full-fledged university. On receipt of the application, the Commission assembled a team of experts to assess the proposal. The team looked at the following: governance and administrative structures, facilities and infrastructure, programs and subject matters in terms of structures, content, and learning outcomes. And there was a final analysis and collation of the outcomes of the assessments for the determination on the application. Permit me to say the team worked assiduously in the review of the proposal, made visits to this campus, being the proposed headquarters of the institution, and held interactive discussions with management and key staff members. The findings and recommendations were then submitted to the Commission Secretariat for consideration by the Commission. On receipt of the report, the head of the team was invited to a meeting at the Commission to discuss their findings and recommendations. The findings and recommendations by the experts were then summarized for approval at the General Commission's meeting held mid-last year. The recommendations were approved. Key among the recommendations approved was for UMU to be accredited as a full-fledged conventional university, starting with 3 academic programs after addressing a few lapses.
Professor George K. Rove, the Vice Chancellor of the United Methodist University, said that the mission of the United Methodist is clear: to provide spiritual and moral education in addition to skill acquisition. Character building was as important then as it is today.
This is how the Albert Academy and Harvard School came into existence. They were followed later by 15 secondary schools and over 300 primary schools. We are the largest Christian denomination in Sierra Leone, no doubt, with a presence in all 16 districts. Our mission statement is clear: to provide spiritual and moral education in addition to skills acquisition. Character building was as important then as it is today. If I may recall the words of Dr. Milton Magai, an honorary illustrious old boy of the Albert Academy, on the occasion of his acceptance of a prime ministership of an independent Sierra Leone.
Dr. Yebu Kamara, PRO Chancellor, in her statement said the United Methodist is a major stakeholder in the area of primary and secondary education in Sierra Leone, but has never put premium on higher education. Late Bishop John K. Yambasu had a desire to fill this gap existing in a United Methodist Church intervention in the education system in the country. She then emphasized that the United Methodist University has come to stay and ensure that annual review may always be satisfactory by the Tertiary Education Committee.
As you are aware, the United Methodist Church is a major stakeholder in the area of primary and secondary education in Sierra Leone, but has never put premium on higher education. Our late Bishop John K. Ambasu had a desire to fill this gap existing in UMC intervention in the education system in our country. He shared his dream of establishing a United Methodist University with others and his initiative was unanimously endorsed by the delegates at the 2009 session of the Sierra Leone Annual Conference. This initiative was translated into a key priority in the 10-year strategic vision, that is Vision 2020, for the United Methodist Church in Sierra Leone. This Vision 2020 was adopted at the 2010 annual conference.
The United Methodist University Sierra Leone has been presented with a certificate of accreditation as an autonomous university in Sierra Leone. For Star TV News, I am Yero Jallo reporting.
And those are all the stories making a news bulletin for today. Thank you so very much for watching. I am Leonora Jawara. Do stay blessed and have yourself a wonderful weekend.